Today on Rescue USA, as an epic wildfire rages in Southern California.
There were down poles, down trees, there were still active fires. No one was here yet. No one was allowed to come back except for emergency services.
A brave volunteer rushes to rescue a stranger's animals.
She is like, I am not leaving your property without every single one of your animals.
And later, a Pennsylvania town is bewildered by an early morning disaster.
The victims and casualty numbers would have been a whole lot higher if not for the extraordinary courage and selflessness of these first responders.
First responders across America and even the globe do a really incredible job at keeping all of us safe. But there are other heroes among us that don't necessarily wear a uniform. That's right, they're called volunteers, volunteer heroes. And much like our traditional first responders, they have no problem going in, even in extreme danger.
Malibu, California is a world-famous beach town. It's known not only for awesome views of the Pacific Ocean, but also the stunning terrain of the Santa Monica Mountains. Jillian Dempsey is fortunate enough to live in Malibu, in those gorgeous hills. She's got a family and more animals than most.
I have 2 donkeys, 1 very large pig, 3 goats, 3 bunnies, a 150-pound tortoise, 3 roosters, a couple of chickens. Am I missing anything here? I think I got it. And then at home, I have rescue dogs and lizards.
But living the dream in Southern California with its sometimes tinderbox-like climate, rural life can come with some terrifying dangers.
The National Weather Service does a great job of forecasting these red flag weather conditions where we know we can have critical rates of fire spread or really rapid fire growth. So keeping in mind that things are really dry and we haven't seen much rain in this area, it only takes 1 small ember to start a fire. In fact, the chances of an ember starting a fire under those conditions is almost between 90 and 100%.
Red flag warnings are issued when it's possible that there's an onset of critical weather and dry conditions that could lead to rapid or dramatic increases in wildfire activity. And in November 2018, a red flag warning had been issued for Southern California.
When the Woolsey fire started, it started over in Simi Valley and quickly transitioned through Oak Park and Thousand Oaks, crossed Highway 101, and quickly ran down to the Pacific Ocean, stretching our resources across the whole basin.
The blaze ravaged its way toward Jillian's home, and although she was out of town for work, Jillian had a safety plan in place and immediately made sure her kids and pets were evacuated as quickly as possible. However, there was still the issue of her more than 15 outdoor loved ones that were trapped in harm's way.
My animals I consider them to be my children too, because I have bonded with all of them and rescued most of them. I was calling every single contact I had for a hauler. I wasn't getting anyone to pick up. I'm sure everybody was scrambling. It was just a state of frenzy.
So anytime there's a major catastrophe like this one, almost immediately the Animal Services engages through the county. They will actually mobilize numerous volunteers that will begin actually going in and rescuing animals all throughout the impacted fire area. There are whole teams that will come out with trailers and all kinds of different vehicles to rescue horses and all kinds of different exotic animals. And they are very passionate about what they do.
Those volunteers were like the tip of the spear for this rescue. Though we may associate our local heroes with a uniform, sometimes that's not always the case. A hero is someone who selflessly puts their own wants and needs aside for the greater good and safety of someone else, oftentimes a stranger. In this case, that someone else was a group of animals that meant a lot to families throughout the area.
Founder of an animal sanctuary named the Little Farm in Ojai, Katie Cook is one of the selfless volunteers putting her own safety at risk to rescue animals in need.
I'm a one-woman show, and besides a very supportive team of husband and children, our sanctuary is run on a very small property. It's meant to be a sanctuary, and they can live with dignity and respect for the rest of their lives.
Less than a year earlier, the epic Thomas fire had endangered the animals that were under Katie's care 55 miles up the coast. She wound up spending an entire exhausting day making sure that they all got to safety.
So this time around, it was like a different click in that I kind of looked to my husband and I was like, and I'm going. And I reached out to the Humane Society of Ventura County and I said, I very much want to partner with you and work together in tandem.
With Katie on the way, but chaos unfolding, it was anyone's guess if the animals could be rescued in time.
Nobody knew what was happening. It was just a state of frenzy. Neighbors calling, people calling, like saying, should we evacuate? What are we doing?
There were down poles, down trees. There were still active fires. I was like, it's on me. I promise you the first run, we will not go to any other property. We're going to this address.
Katie was committed to making sure those animals were safe. That's the mark of a true hero. They want to help others in the face of adversity. In this case, the animals were so frightened, it added a layer of danger to an already precarious situation.
In November 2018, the Woolsey fire ravaged the Southern California landscape. The record-setting blaze destroyed more than 1,600 buildings, burned more than 100,000 acres of land, and claimed 3 lives. And while firefighters were still in containment mode, courageous volunteers were doing whatever it took to get trapped animals out of harm's way.
They do that in really close coordination with the fire and the law enforcement staff that are managing the fire. Once it's safe for them to get into those areas, they'll come in and they'll begin doing those animal rescues.
Katie Cook's mission was simple: to enter the still smoking Malibu hills and rescue animals of all shapes and sizes from a sprawling property owned by Jillian Dempsey and her family.
No one was here yet. No one was allowed to come back except for emergency services.
I texted her pictures, or I had gone in and outlined where all the animals are. I'm like, this is where the roosters live. This is the coop where the bunnies are. This is like where the tortoise is, where the pig is. This is where the goats are. This is where the donkeys are.
So the general plan was there, and we knew how many and what we were looking for, and I said, I'm like, we're not leaving without everyone.
Katie on the ground here she is like, I am not leaving your property without every single one of your animals. And I was like, please don't put your life in danger.
The property, when we got on board here, there were still active small fires. I mean, you can see that everything was still smoldering and smoking, and there were tiny little fires all over.
Of course, our police and fire personnel want to save pets and animals whenever they can. But in the case of wildfires, saving human lives is the first priority. Thankfully, there are volunteers willing to help out in crisis situations, put themselves at risk to help the community.
Left on their own and surrounded by fire and thick smoke, the animals were clearly spooked.
They had just lived through and experienced this really intense trauma. I mean, unimaginable. And then we're showing up, strangers.
The crew had to be careful with dangerous conditions at every turn, but they kept their cool and rounded up all of the distressed animals.
Collected all of the chickens and kept them all independent of each other. 2 bunnies. One of the tougher loads was Hank, the pig. He just wasn't very happy, and he's a big boy, so he just did not want to go for a walk. I don't think he wants to go for a walk anytime, but he definitely didn't want to go for a walk at this time. As soon as he took one step to go sit down, I was like, oh, no, we can't fight against that body. So we just kept him moving and got everyone loaded safely.
Miraculously, all of these cuddly creatures made it out of harm's way thanks to the swift and noble actions of volunteer heroes like Katie Cook. Immediately transported out of the fire to the Humane Society of Ventura County, they were cared for until Jillian was able to return and be thankfully reunited with her furry family.
I was just so happy to see them. When I got to the Humane Society, I was just so excited to see them. I knew it. I knew it. Okay, are you ready to go? Hi, guys.
So do you see how he has that funny gait?
A little bumble.
It's still just the sensitivity from the burns. So it's just a matter of keeping it clean.
Okay. Hi, babies, come here. Oh, come here. Oh, my babies, come to me. I thought they were dead, so knowing that they all were collected and that Katie saved every single one of them and pulled them from the property is mind-blowing. Now I feel like somebody blessed me. I don't know what to say. Good karma for the animals. That's how I feel. If you weren't there, they would not be here. Thank you so much. It's a forever in debt. It's just so much gratitude. I just wanted to thank the Ojai Humane Society, Katie Little Farm in Ojai. I would like everyone to know about Katie. I think there need to be clones of Katie.
I think I do what people are supposed to be doing. You're supposed to help each other, and you're supposed to find what it is that is your thing and then commit to it and just be good.
Center Township, Pennsylvania is located in the far western part of the state, in Beaver County. And since it's adjacent to Raccoon Township, you can imagine there's quite a bit of wildlife in the rolling wooded countryside. However, the peaceful sounds of nature were drowned out early one September morning. That's when the people of Center Township got an explosive wake-up call that they'll never forget. Luckily, the first responders in town were ready to go.
Center Township, Pennsylvania is a small community just 25 miles northwest of Pittsburgh. There are 3 colleges in the area, and many families have been here for generations.
People go to work, they come home. It's a tight-knit community. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody gets along with everybody. You know, you can drive down the road and wave at somebody and they're gonna wave back. That's just how it is.
September 10th, 2018, pre-dawn and raining, and suddenly half the town was awakened by an extraordinary, mysterious event.
We have room darkening blinds in our house, and it was like pure sunshine, like it was broad daylight.
You could see it in the distance, and I first thought it would be a plane crash. And then I realized it's way too big to be a plane crash.
I woke up and I seen an orange glow in my bedroom window, and could tell it was a distance away, and I could start hearing the rumbling of the noise.
A torrential onslaught of heavy rains had actually caused the soil around a newly installed major gas line to severely shift, and in turn, the gas line actually ruptured and exploded. Unlike blazes that start in houses or trees, a gas pipeline fire is almost impossible to fight. The fuel and accelerant pours directly out of this broken 24-inch pipe, the fire projecting upward an estimate of 150 to 200 feet.
It was raining, and it was pitch black, and all of a sudden it was noon with no rain. So the rain actually evaporated out of the air while we were responding. And I remember the windshield wipers got dry.
The heat generated by the fire that morning was almost incomprehensible.
We show up that morning, and it looked like the end of the world. We just big, massive fireball, a lot of smoke, loud noises, people running everywhere.
The blaze had erupted on the property of one of Tom's neighbors, and as their home burned, the family was thankfully able to escape and seek refuge at Tom's house.
They came into our house with the dogs that survived the fire. Man, it was out of control. It was so traumatic, surreal, you can't imagine.
However, the family's horses were still trapped near the inferno. So, as the first responders arrived, they immediately leapt into action.
We went into complete evacuation mode, try to save life, then property last.
What we can do at this point is evacuate and get all these cars out of here except for one engine.
The Center Township authorities knew the best course of action, and they acted on it. It's a good lesson for all of us. The more the general public can listen to and heed the warnings from our first responders, the more damage control we can accomplish. And then obviously, the better off we'll all be.
So we actually were able to find the residents over the hill.
Ladder 91.
One of the emergency guys there, Alex Scott, up there at the thing, he said he was horning at me and stuff like that, because he said, you have to go, you have to go. And he said that the flame could have followed the pipeline all the way up, because the pipeline goes right here.
The house and 2 other buildings on the 35-acre farm were engulfed in flames. After making sure the gas company had shut down the flow of methane, the firefighters determined that their only option was to let it burn out. But there were still several horses trapped on the property. Before dawn on September 10th, 2018, an unexpected fireball lit up the sky in Center Township, Pennsylvania.
I could see it pretty much as soon as we pulled out of the firehouse. Bunch of fire in the air, a big orange glow.
An immense blaze from a gas pipeline had engulfed a family's home and 2 other buildings, along with 5 vehicles. There was so much thermal energy transferred from the site, their neighbor's property was damaged as well.
So you can see where the fire was at least 150 yards away. Okay, you can see where the house was. But the heat was so intense that it shot through here and melted our siding.
But with 1 property destroyed, there was still the possibility of a lethal chain reaction along the pipeline, which had to burn off. But that's no easy task given that the pipeline had miles and miles of gas still in it. And with a number of downed power lines in the area, first responders like Officer Jeff Nolfi continued with evacuations.
We had 2 separate residents and had elderly people, so we actually had to get the ambulance in their yard. I mean, everybody has to help carry and bring everybody out, and I couldn't tell you the time frame that it took us to get everybody off that street, but I remember looking at the end after we cleared everybody out, and the fire was starting to slow down a little bit, and just couldn't even imagine just everything that just took place.
While the first responders got everyone evacuated safely, 3 horses were still in need of help. And just in the nick of time, John and his colleagues were actually able to walk the horses out, miraculously unharmed.
And that was very rewarding, especially when the lady that owned the horses come up to me and hug me. It's just fulfilling to know that putting all the time and training into this, there's a reward at the end.
With the fire finally coming to an end, many brave first responders had worked double shifts that day, putting in upwards of 19 hours to make sure that further crisis was averted.
Take our hats off to the police and the firemen and the first responders were here, bing, bang, boom. They were lining up so deep, they said, "You got to get out of here." I said, "Get out of my way so I can get out of here."
The men and women of the police department, the fire department, the ambulance worked tremendously well that day together. Everybody had no issues. Everybody worked with each other. Once it was finally done, all the first responders, I think, took a big sigh of relief of, hey, it's finally done, it's over with, we can start to settle down.
And after an unforgettable day that started with such a big, scary bang, the people of Center Township all ended it with a beautiful little gesture of thanks.
After we handled this incident, we're actually sitting out there just directing traffic, and a mother and her little boy and girl came up with coffee for us, and I mean, that's just a heartwarming experience after a critical incident like that. The community's there, ready to help you, support you, and it's a rainy, cold day, and that's what they did. They came up and brought us coffee.
The first responders of Center Township showed real bravery and heart that day, and they show it every day. They put themselves in harm's way to save their fellow citizens, and they do it with skill and dedication.
For those of us that love animals, today's stories were super inspiring. From Katie Cook in Malibu to the first responders in Pennsylvania more than 3,000 miles away, we really got a chance to see how humans use our intelligence and training to save our four-legged friends. I'm Ginger Z. Thank you so much for watching.